go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews connections in mind. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is the long-awaited sequel to Tim Burton's film of the singular name. And this film, once again, features Michael Keaton as the titular Beetlejuice, who, after all this time, is back in Lydia Dietz's life. There's a new twist involving her daughter, Astrid, getting caught up in the world of dead, and Lydia must now deal with this new complication. Now, this review will contain spoilers of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, as well as certain other films. I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, however, but just so you know, there will be some spoilers later on in this review. But first and foremost, let's get into some spoiler-free talk on the Beetlejuice 2. Is this a good movie? Is it a worthy sequel to the original? I would say, if you're a fan of the original Beetlejuice, there's going to be stuff that you like. There's definitely something for everyone to like if you're a fan of the original Beetlejuice in this new movie. What this movie does great is this is definitely a showcase of there's some great practical effects going on here. You know, that's great to see. The CGI is pretty minimal as far as I can tell. I mean, there's definitely some to be had here. It's obvious that the main characters are all having fun back in these roles. You know, Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder back. They step into these roles so well. Catherine O'Hara as Delia is fantastic as well. And really, the main focus is supposed to be on Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. And really, you know, if people saw, let's say, The Flash last year with Michael Keaton returning to his Batman, and thought that, you know, maybe he looks fine, but he's not as surprised as he used to be. And you know, the CG is definitely obvious there. This one, you know, may get a different type of makeup, so you can cover up a lot of his, you know, the fact that he does, in fact, look 36 years older than what he did. You know, they're able to cut around it in such a way, you know, Beetlejuice moves in such a way that, you know, he's the same guy as he was back then, and that's incredible. And that's a testament not only to Michael Keaton, he's staying in shape all this time, but, you know, him teaming up with Tim Burton again. They're able to bring that back, that same old magic back. So, from that perspective, yes, this is a fantastic worthy sequel to the original from that regard. They do some interesting explanations as to why certain characters are not there. Ranging from just a throwaway line to say why they're not there to a whole, you know, basically, if you're familiar with the Puffs tissues commercials, that kind of animation. So that's kind of a interesting little explanation as to why they're not there. So there's that going on here. But really, this movie does what a lot of good legacy sequels do, in that it does not. It's at its best when it's not retreading the original, and really, this is not a retread of the original. It's more of this is more of a family dynamic. Whereas in the original movie, you had Alec Baldwin and Junior Davis's character have a sort of surrogate parenthood with Winona Ryder's Lydia. Here, Lydia is now the mother, and she's having to deal with her daughter, Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega. And there's that whole dynamic, you know, dealing with the events of the original in such a way that it doesn't feel forced; it feels organic. Like I said, there's this movie's at its best when it's not rehashing the dynamics of the original movie. Uh, there's so much going on with Lydia is really more elevated to the status of co-lead with Michael Keaton. And really, Michael Keaton, I didn't time it or anything, but it does seem like he has almost the same amount of screen time as he did in the original, which really wasn't all that much considering. If you go back and rewatch the original, you know, Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is not in the original movie, on screen for very long, and he's able to do so much with that. And I think this movie wisely knows that over reliance on Beetlejuice is dangerous, and I think this movie wisely knows to not overexpose him from to that degree. That is until we get to the parts where this movie falls down and where it falls into the same trap as a lot of legacy sequels, is that there are parts where this movie does, in fact, rehash the original. There's the very famous scene, the scene from the original where, the possession of the livings, singing, making them sing along to Deo through this and do a dance routine. It's a fun little routine, and it's relatively short. This time around, there's another musical moment, except it's not Harry Belafonte. It's MacArthur Park, actually, but MacArthur Park's a much longer song than Deo, and they do most of the song in this. Feels like the movie just kind of grinds to a halt to make a music video for a Beetlejuice themed music video, and that's where it really drags at that point. There's no reason for this to be there or be that long. It just felt like this movie had to have a musical scene. Similarly, this movie commits the another error of really any sequel, is that you take a interesting or funny character that was funny or interesting in small doses and then give him an expanded role in the sequel. Well, that's what happens here with the Shrunken Head. There was a Shrunken Head guy in the original movie. They bring him back and multiply him by about a dozen. It's not funny. It's, the bit goes on way too long. And really, that's one of the main fall downs of this movie, is that there's so many bits that throw so much at you that a lot of them just don't work, or they did work, but then they just keep going with the bit, and that's a shame. An example is if I were to just throw out the words "Soul Train," think of the first thing that comes to your mind when I say those words. That's pretty much exactly what's in the movie, and it goes on way too long. It lingers on way too long. It's not even that clever to begin with, except you're just kind of stuck in here for a little while. That's like I said. That's what really drags this movie down for me. And like I said, all the greatness of Michael Keaton and the cast, the returning cast coming back. There's just so many different side plots going on with this. It feels a lot more cluttered of a movie, and then by the end, it really just kind of grinds to a halt. And elements that it doesn't work up to anything organic. It just felt like it felt like a studio mandate where it's like, oh, we're doing a sequel to Beetlejuice. It has to have this element, this element, this element. And it doesn't matter if they fit in organically, because it was working just fine without them. But then you got to cram in all at the very end, and yeah, that's a real shame. This, if I was gonna give Beetlejuice a letter grade, I would say it's probably a B minus, maybe even a C plus. It's just on the hair over the C grade to B minus, because, like I said, the things that this movie does great really elevate it, but there's enough that really drags it down where I can't say this is a great sequel to things. It is a much better as a legacy sequel than a lot of other legacy sequels, to be sure, but I have to say, if I was going to, if someone's going to come over to my house and say, hey, let's put on Beetlejuice, If I was like, all right, and it's like, I'm not going to instinctively say which one. You know what I mean? Or if I'm, it's not that I'm not going to rewatch this movie, but if I was going to give them the choice between watching the original and the sequel, I, I'm going to be watching the original far, far more than I'm going to be watching the sequel. So if that's any indication, uh, of my thoughts, that's pretty indicative. And but again, uh, maybe your mileage will differ on that. So those are my spoiler-free thoughts on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you, and where you may have seen them before. Um, Really, I only have one thing that kind of struck me with the plot with this movie is that. Um, the the plot line of Astrid being estranged from her mother, at first you go, it's like, oh, you're so obsessed with ghosts, you're seeing ghosts everywhere, it's driving us apart, and I can't see the ghosts, but then it's like, that's one thing, but then there's this sort of, I guess it's understandable, but it's also kind of forced, in my opinion, oh, well, you can't see, my dad died, you can see ghosts, but how come you can't see my dad? What's going on there? It's like, okay, I kind of get that, but like I said, there's this whole arc with Astrid with, she's like, oh, I'm into science, I only believe in things that I can see, and then when she gets into the land, into the afterlife, and then sees all these things, then they reconcile on that. Made me think a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, the fifth one there, where you have the character, she is unknowingly until the very end, the daughter of Barbossa, who she's also scientifically minded. It's like, oh, I don't know any, these curses are a myth, and then she goes on this journey and it's like, oh no, all this stuff really is real. What's going on here? And then they have that forced character moment with, the father-daughter thing at the very end. That Astrid's arc for me felt a little for, and also, like I said, the indicative of this problem of too many subplots. She's got two different subplots going on here. One, she gets caught up with ghost boyfriend. We don't realize it's a ghost boyfriend until the very end, and then he's evil. And it's like, all right, if that was it, great. Or we also have, she's mad at, Astrid's mad at her mother for not being able to see the ghost of her father. Okay, then she goes to the afterlife to find her dad, and they do find her dad. Great. And then they have a little moment, and then he's gone again. It's like, okay, it seems like we're building up towards that, and then the ghost boyfriends hijacked that, but then the dad subplot kind of crashed back in and then got resolved super quickly because we have to move on to other things. It's like, what is going on here? Like I said, there's a lot of different subplots in this movie that I just don't understand, and you could have cut so many other things to make it more streamlined. Like I said, the original Beetlejuice it's a fairly simple story. Right, so people who own a house, they die. They're stuck in the house, and then they don't like the people who live there, but they can't scare away, so they have to enlist Beetlejuice. That's a pretty simple storyline. But this new sequel, they've got so many different storylines going on. I mean, I like the aside that we get with Beetlejuice explaining his backstory. And the ex-wife they chopped up, like there's that whole criminal investigation storyline that she pulls herself together, she's sucking souls, and then she chases Beetlejuice into the living world. It's like she pops back up, disappears for large parts of the movie, then pops back up randomly. It's like, why do you even include that? It's like you could have explained that with explain his backstory. It's like, oh, it's a fun little story. It's just odd. He's just telling us his backstory for no apparent reason. But no, we have to include this. It's like, I don't know. There's like I said, there's a lot to like in this movie, but there's so many stuff going on. It really does drag it down, and you feel exhausted by the end of it. I feel like, and not in a good way. So. yeah, those are my main spoiler thoughts on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Am I completely wrong about this? Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which will be for Transformers 1, which I believe comes out September 20th. And as always, if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.